Hi guys, I'm feeling to go with an update. A kind of story of now on the evolution of human consciousness, because I know that as a collective, as a tribe, many of us are really experiencing such strong upheaval, such strong movements. And I just want to speak a little bit to what I've been reading in the Akash of the collective human blueprint. So yes, the world is really delivering us pain stories at the moment. It's very hard to be with what we're being shown on the news. I mean, I don't actually watch the news, and yet I am receiving plenty. It's impossible not to be receiving the world stories at the moment. And there is something about having a global focus as a tribe of consciousness, processing together as a human collective, healing and clearing the old paradigm from the Akash of our own individual blueprints and the Akash of the collective world blueprint, which is a phrase I've not found myself using before, as well as the Akash of the collective human blueprint. All that means is that we talk a lot about making a shift into the new paradigm and the new earth and the new world. Now what that means is facing the darkness inside each of us. And when there is a global event, it gives us a global focus, and it will bring up the strong responses we each have individually within us. Those strong responses are the signposts to how each of us can help a global situation that we want not to be happening. When there's a disaster, when there's pain, when there's war, when there's horrible things happening in the world, and we want them to not be happening. And the cry is, how do I help? What do I do? What does this mean for the future? What are we creating together? And the answer is, when there's a strong global focus in the news, or it's being brought to our attention locally or globally, we get to hold a tribal focus and individually process what we are feeling. Now, I know the cry comes, oh, it's not enough. It's more than we really often understand. When we respond with compassion to pain that isn't ours, we are healing the need for us to collectively manifest more pain. When we acknowledge our anger and frustration and detach it from the story that triggered it, but dance it out, move it out, pray it out, shout it out, and use our anger and our frustration or our depression or our despair, those lower, almost unsafe feeling emotions, to find out, hang on a minute, I'm not all right with this. What is my no? And we find our no to something global outside of ourselves, and we can bring that in. And so what am I saying no to? Well, right now it might be I'm saying no to conflict. I'm saying no to difference, to violence based on differences. Let's be really simplistic about it, because it's very complex, isn't it, what we're looking at the moment. I'm saying no to... So, okay, there's a global situation that's making me really make a choice here, and there's emotions to my choice. Now, the beautiful thing about making a choice and bringing emotional energy to it is when we do that, we can break and reset core codes, core programming within ourselves that can't be reset any other way. Sometimes there's core codes in our blueprint that are running the story of how we create reality individually for ourselves and collectively, and they can't be changed any other way. We need to have a strong emotional response coupled with an emphatic choice about no this, and ideally we move from no to yes this. And it's like we've got the book of soul open, and there's a page telling all the stories of the past, and we've looked at this page and we've despaired over it and we've tried to change it so many other ways, and yet somehow that page is still written into the book of soul in us. And yet when something happens that makes us feel really strong emotions, when something happens that makes us feel really strong emotions, coupled with a choice, a decision that we're making together. This book of soul, with this programming that we haven't been able to change, have we been able to let go of world war stories? Have we been able to let go of our own personal conflict stories? With the emotion and the choice together, we can. Some of this coding starts to dissolve, and we have a blank page. And this is what I feel there's a channeling from the guides wants to come through, and what I feel to sit today and kind of speak to this a bit. Because on the blank page, we get to decide, what are we going to create instead? What have you found? This is my scarf. Love you. We get to decide, what are we going to create instead? And that's the blank page. Now, that page doesn't have to be written from the old emotions that we felt about the old story. What we create instead gets written from a place of peace. And before the guides come through and talk about, I assume, I expect possibly, how we can create new realities from this, and the why of this current situation, and how it relates to the evolution of human consciousnness right now, and how it helps us rewrite the old paradigm into the new one. I'm just checking, because so much came through recently about the work we're already doing internally, but I think the guides are going to speak to that. Yep, sure, all right. So I'm gonna take a step back now, having sort of set the focus for us. And I can feel my I can say this, my beautiful white lion family. My heart just bursts open when I feel like I've got permission to name them and welcome them and thank them for coming through. And I can feel them here, like, an arm of support all the way around. Call it an embrace of support. We have messages of encouragement for you at this time of war and difficulty. So many of you are having to choose how to respond to what is being brought directly in front of your awareness each day. Yes, it is easier by far to turn away, and yet so many of you are not. So many of you are facing your own responses to the war that is happening on another part of the world, because you feel the interconnectedness with your tribe in consciousness, and they are your tribe. They are doing your work, the same work as you, just as you are doing theirs, but you are sat in different places in the picture. We have brought this to you before. You are connected, so you are feeling your part of the global process that they are also at the nexus of in the material world. So you have strong times ahead of you, behind you, strong processes. You will be called to step up and face what is in front of you when it is challenging you to begin again in your core patterns, in your core beliefs, in your core ways of approaching each other in relationship. For it is your relationships that are coming home to oneness, where you understand, don't you, so many of you, that you are that what binds you outweighs what defines you as, and what unites you outweighs what divides you. You are being asked, you're being called, you're being confronted to bring this into action in your personal lives, in your personal mindscapes, landscapes, and communityscapes, so that you live it. You embody the truth of unity thinking, unity relating, of perceiving how your differences are outweighed by what unites you. Responding as love to those who are vastly different to you, who hold differing political opinions and worldviews, who define themselves by their political opinions and worldviews. And yet, if you talk as love, with love, you speak beyond those differences, you connect heart to heart. And there are things which bind and unite all human beings, things you have in common. You can eat together, sit together, love together, laugh together, drink together, enjoy the landscape together if you're lucky enough and it is not being bombed to pieces. You can admire the stars together, talk about the weather together, and there are so many areas where you can connect and speak simply as love to love, asking people about their day, how they feel, what matters to them, and instead of the tug of war of I'm right, you're wrong, this is true, this is not, this narrative is more real than that narrative, you can see where that energy lands. And beloved, so many of you explored that right and wrongness, that this narrative is more true than that narrative, because the pandemic, this global phenomenon, has supported each of you to contact that hidden part of you that maybe some of you are not so proud that you have, and yet it is such a normal, natural part of being human. I'm right, you're wrong. This is real, that's not real. It's vital, in fact. As an ego exploring itself in separation landscape, it is vital to develop that belief of I'm right, you're wrong. This narrative is more true than that narrative, because it is part of the art of mastery within the paradigm of separation, which all of you are here to evolve as souls through. So what you're being asked to give up is part of your old mastery, part of being right over being loving, part of being right over being kind, or being right over being compassionate. You're being asked to let go of your old mastery toolkit, because you are stepping out of the landscape of separation and learning together how you communicate more lovingly, more kindly, more compassionately, beyond the framework that supported you to define your differences. Anchor in your differences, use them to distance yourself from each other and create the illusion of space and more difference between you than there really truly is. Each of you are a unique lens in the eye of consciousness, perceiving itself from within its own sphere of awareness. You necessarily have differences, and they matter. They're vital, they're important. What defines you as unique is to be honoured and treasured, and this is the lesson that's coming next. But first of all, there is a letting go. Boundaries have been so important. Defining your boundaries to understand that your uniqueness matters and should be defended, of course, but with love. Without making something different, something other, wrong. Without needing to distance. The stronger your boundaries, the more loving they are, the less distance you need, the less judgment you need, the less fear of difference you need. Actually anchoring in your own uniqueness prevents the need to go to war. Having strong, loving boundaries reduces the need for conflict in your interpersonal relationships. And this is part of your work. Those of you sat here not being bombed as we speak. Thank you. Strong words for strong times. We feel they are needed. We often don't reference the more traumatic events happening on the surface, but we need to help you see that these traumatic events are a symptom of healing and clearing, of renewal, renewing agreements and contracts between yourselves as a species for how you are going to create your reality going forward. Now, so many of you are having your hearts broken open and able to respond with compassion, not anger. Finding your no's, this shall not be, realizing how very different, how impossibly different the manifest reality appears compared to the reality you already know is more real for the world, more real for you, that you are each anchored in, embedded within, and busy co-creating at higher planes of consciousness, as well as the part of you with eyes that look outwards into the world. You're already fully embedded in the new architects of reality. So what you see manifesting on the surface should not shake you or make you fear that this is all for nothing and the world hasn't moved on and everyone needs saving. It's quite the opposite. It's a symptom of the world having moved on, that these old paradigm activities can no longer be supported in the collective human consciousness. But the collective human consciousness needs a trigger to bring up its no with heartfelt force of emotion. At the same time, you are each holding a resonance of peace in your fields. Many of you, regardless of what is churning for you in the surface of your human experience, there are higher dimensions of you of which we wish to speak now that are holding a resonance of peace in your fields, which is part of Gaia is awakening her temples within the structures of the earth, within the crust of the earth, below the earth's surface, awakening the gateways that open directly to the infinite, unconditional love from Source, from the all that is. These gateways are opening, in many cases, below sacred places in the land. Often these sacred spaces have upon them temples, churches, and the like. But what they're showing me is they're showing me these kind of these sacred temples, mosques, churches, and sacred buildings. They're showing me a kind of flickering image of as though from the point of view of a consciousness that experiences things much more slowly than we do. And it's like our buildings are popping up and going down and popping up and going down, but the sacred spaces in Gaia, beneath them, which have attracted those who have that sympathetic resonance with looking for, where do I place my sacred temple? Where do we build the church? Where do we put the mosque? So often those listeners were in tune with what is deep below the surface, within the lay of the land herself. Opening these are now to allow for a unity consciousness and direct access to direct knowingness of the God self within. So that however the avenue on the surface of accessing these sacred places and temples of the divine, whatever the garment is that is being worn as a building, as a religion, as a doctrine, the resonance in the sacred centres beneath the places in question is facilitating direct knowingness of the God self within. This does not mean that the religions of the world should be dismantled, but it does offer as invitation a resonance, a new quality that is going to be a part of so many of these places and a natural part of the evolution of human consciousness as a whole. Simply a new octave in the song. The mind wishes to define, reduce, measure, decree, and for sure there will be plenty of that. It is a right of human existence and a way of exploring the interface between the intangible and the infinite, the incomprehensible and the human, and form. That interface results in dogma and religion and ways of exploring humankind's realization of the infinity that is. But there is full allowing for this subtle introduction of a new octave, opening because Gaia's temples are opening within her earth. Within her, within the earth that she is. This opening of Gaia's temples will continue. It is a harmonic, a song in itself. Recently, one opened in the land near your channel. It was accompanied by an earthquake in a place not prone to earthquakes, at least not those that can normally be felt by the sensitive. But it is not necessary, as has already been said, for this opening of Gaia's temples to be disruptive, to be shattering, to cause breaks, to cause phenomena. Perhaps phenomena, but not trauma. There is a harmonious process governing the opening of these temples within the earth, and that shall continue. The quality of being invited to directly experience the divine is the note they reintroduce into these certain sacred sites within the earth. This supports God realization at a vibrational level. A vibrational aspect of physical existence, of physical embodiment, which means it invites the realization of direct knowingness of the divine, of God, of all that is, of source, connectedness, of oneness. Use your own language. All the way into the body, and this is what we have been seeing, no? As a direction of evolution in the preceding years, The pandemic has opened this up within each of you, within the human blueprints of everybody. The gateways to source were opened within the dimension of embodiment. Embodied, physical, experiential existence. It means that your body has an awareness of its own that is oneness and vibrates as oneness, and that is catalyzing physical processes in your body, in your physical reality, and in the physical reality of your world. As homecoming is initiated, old trauma responses are brought to the surface to clear, and you have echo events that mimic old traumas, sometimes quite heavily and strongly, in order to re-trigger responses, so that old responses to old traumas that would prohibit you from embodying this oneness awareness get to complete where they were interrupted in the past, where they were incomplete, where they have been vibrating in your fields outside space and time, telling you that reality is now and trauma is real and trauma is now. These trigger events get you to complete old trauma responses from this life, from other lives, those you carry in the Akash of your DNA, those you inherit from your ancestors. Anything live and vibrating as scripts in your field. Old trauma responses get to move, heal, and release, like ripples moving to the surface, moving across the surface to the outside of a pond, and the energy dissipating as it hits those banks. You too are collectively releasing, personally releasing old traumas, old trauma responses. From everything we've just listed, this life, our past lives, your ancestry, and other aspects of yourself, other incarnations, from other dimensions of the self, everything carried in the Akash of your DNA that is your responsibility in this life. There is a beautiful sovereignty emerging as a result of the horrendousness in global events manifesting in your planet at this time. It is ownership for your part in healing the story that is ending itself in this way on your earth. The more ownership you take in facing how you feel, in allowing yourself to fully respond as you are responding without judging your responses, blessing them, giving them space and letting them move, you release trauma collectively and individually for yourself, for your ancestors, from the field. And the more of this you face, the more of this you own and be with, the less you can the more grace you manifest globally as you move through these challenging times. You are not here to create more trauma for each other and yourselves. You are using it to heal what absolutely cannot be sustained in the field of collective human consciousness any longer. You must face what's in front of you, each of you. But no, you are not doing it alone. Yes, you are calling in grace. You are held in grace. Although it is strong, you have each been given the least possible to work with. And you understand that it is strong, and this is the least. So imagine how much you are healing and clearing at this time. And we call on you, even during difficult times. In fact, especially at this time, to create from a place of a higher, clearer vibration the visions you have for the future. What do you wish to see? What are you here to uphold? What is a landscape of your physical reality that you would imagine if you were imagining the world anew? How would you want it to look? How would you want it to feel? What are the models and the templates and the recipes that you're bringing into the world? You are architects of the new. And while you may be finding your nose at this time and healing old traumas, you are very busy on the inner planes creating the new landscapes that you were creating before this all rose to the surface for processing, and will continue to be creating on the other side of what's to come. You are architects of the new. So as you heal and clear your with compassion, your anger, your fear, your despair, your depression around what is manifesting globally, perhaps those of you who are having those responses, there are spaces and there is spaciousness for expansion in between each clearing. So rather than rushing to what's the next trauma you're here to heal, the next disaster you're here to respond to, and jumping onto that feeding response of what is going wrong in the world, we would suggest, the spaciousness between difficult times, difficult moments, and difficult feelings. For in that expansiveness, you are the resonance of peace that is healing the world. You are holding the frequencies of infinite unconditional love. You have the opportunity to rest in the resonance of oneness, embodying, being that breath of unity consciousness. You are the breath of creation renewing itself moment to moment through you. And there is in each moment infinite possibility for what you are here to bring to the song of creation now. In times of chaos and crumbling, there is infinite scope for new creations, for creating beyond the limitations of the old laws, beyond the limitations of old imagination, beyond the limitations of old choices and beliefs, beyond the limitations of what was previously presumed to be possible. Out of chaos arises the beautiful new, and it comes from you. It is what you contact when you rest in the resonance of love, gratitude, celebration, joy. The listening place where sparks of divine inspiration can breathe their way into your being and arrive in the world, manifest through your personal expression. Believe in your dreams at this time. Never before have they been more accessible, more likely to manifest. It's not likely to manifest, it's likely to come to fruition. You need each other to bring this new world into being. This is why you are healing your interpersonal relationships at this time. Trust that this is a healing process because you are required to step up again as creators, bringing your vision. And believe it or not, each of you, your unique vision will be shared. And there are others who hold, cupped in their hands, the tools, the skills, the expertise, the energy, the belief, the abilities that will help bring your dreams, your visions into fruition. And that this is a natural way of interrelating. When unity consciousness becomes embodied as global action, Global action is stepping out beyond rescue into innovation. This is a huge movement with many facets, and each of you stand with the facets that support you in your own evolution. We thank you. There is one more thing we wish to speak on at this time. This is the field of peace, the world work that each of you, so many of you, are a part of. We said at the beginning that you are holding a resonance of peace in your fields, your individual fields, and you are part of. You are generating a field of peace within the world. Each of you are feeling inspired to bring this in your own individual ways, and where there is playfulness, fun, and creating, this brings a higher octave of frequency and experience to the field. There are those who hold a deeper resonance of peace that exists beyond the realm of experience, beyond mind, in pure awareness. They are like the baseline, the foundation in this global co-creation. Each of you hold an octave of peace within your fields and are vibrating with it now. Regardless of what else is churning on the surface, what you are processing, you hold within you this resonance of peace. It may be hard to believe we understand, because what you're feeling is so often the more real for you. And yet, we see you multidimensionally, and we can report. We can hold up this mirror and reflect back to you the activities that might not be so visible for you, and say again, you are each holding a resonance of peace in your fields, and there is a world work you are actively engaged within. So where you gather in peaceful circles, where you bring your unique talents, gifts, and modes of expression to creating groups and connectivities and events where you are together, consciously choosing to hold this resonance of peace. You create pathways from those multi-dimensions where you are already active into the physical. You enable the frequencies you are each working with as masters and master engineers to reach your planet, your world, the people who need the medicine that comes from those healing frequencies of peace. So there's healing to happen, where you're being asked to face the dark inside. And there is playful creating, where you're bringing your gifts to a table of global co-creating in a field holding multiple resonances of peace that brings medicine to where it's needed in yourselves, in the world right now. And all of this is happening all at once. This is why, as guides, we often marvel at you as humans, because we see that within the human experience, all things can happen at once. The pain of trauma healing, the joy of playful creating. You bring it all to the table. And you are renewing your world. You are renewing your world, recreating the landscape of reality, breaking down the limitations of the past, the old boundaries, and reasserting loving new boundaries that support each of you to be different, unique, and that uniqueness has mattering, and still to be connected in love, in unity. Learning what this means in your interrelating. Learning how to relate as love, speaking to love. Playing with love. Creating with love. Love dialoguing with itself. So yes, you must heal and clear your fields from the darkness of the past, and you're doing this for yourselves and your ancestors, for other lives and for the planet. Gaia is opening her song to you, bringing in the support and the supportive frequencies that necessitate your evolution in this, your evolution into a higher octave of loving, interrelating. Within her, you are as one, and yet your individual songs are known within the bosom of the earth and loved unconditionally. She brings that unconditional love to each of you, every soul present within her, born of her, bodies breathing with her. You are both individuals and one to her. To all that is, you are known, witnessed, loved as such, and allowed to be here, to create, to innovate, to inspire, to come up with new ideas, new ways of seeing, new ways of being, new ways of relating, new ways of creating. Bring new businesses into the world, start new organizations, bring cooperatives. Be inspired. This time of chaos is ripe for new ideas to find their pathway directly into manifestation. So make use of that and don't hold back your beautiful creativity. We wish to see it, for to us it looks like sunshine as rays throughout the multi-dimensions of the universe, of the multiverse. Bring that inspiration through now, beloveds. It's the breath of creation expressing itself through you and your uniqueness. You're each lenses refracting the rays of the divine, and you are here to play. We look forward. This is all we have to say. Thank you so much for being with our message of this time, of this day, of this moment. Thank you for allowing us to sit with you for a short spell. For us, it is always an honour. We are the Syrian Light family, the Lions of Light. And the family of your channel at this time. I am Anaya. Thank you. Well, that was really beautiful. Thanks for being with it. Wow, thank you guys for bringing that through. That was a lot, but I think we covered a lot there. We covered the healing that's happening, our own part in it. We covered the opening of the earth temples, and we covered the call to co-create in the new from a higher place than the healing that's happening, and the hopefulness that we are still architects of the new and our future is in our hands and on track, and that we're doing everything we can, and that we are all connected. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Love you. Bye now.